The cabin air felt unusually tense the moment Ryan stepped onto the plane with his 8-year-old son, Aiden, clinging shyly to his sleeve. It wasn't turbulence or delay or the typical frustration of air travel. It was something deeper, something Ryan had grown used to over the years since becoming a single dad. People's stares. Their quick judgments. The silent assumptions that he was disorganized, overwhelmed, or simply not enough without a partner at his side. And today, that silent judgment became painfully loud the moment a sharply dressed CEO in his early 50s, with a silver tie pin and an expression carved in permanent arrogance, turned around in his seat and let out a short, mocking laugh when Aiden accidentally bumped his carry-on bag against the man's elbow. The CEO muttered something about incompetent parents and men who shouldn't try raising kids alone, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear, and for Aiden to shrink away like a wounded animal. And as Ryan guided his son into their seats, forcing calm into his shaking hands, he wondered why every day had to begin with a battle, why even small moments like boarding a plane had to feel like proving himself to a world determined to doubt him. If you believe kindness and second chances matter in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Tales to support stories that restore faith in humanity. Ryan tried to ignore the CEO's scoff, focusing instead on Aiden, who was staring out the window with wide, solemn eyes. He was a gentle kid, too gentle for the harshness he had already witnessed. Losing his mother at such a young age had left shadows in him that Ryan tried every day to soften. He worked 2 jobs, took night shifts, cooked, cleaned, and did everything possible to make his boy feel safe in a world that felt unpredictable and cold. This trip, their first vacation in years, was meant to be a new memory, one where they weren't defined by loss but by possibility. Yet even here, thousands of feet above ground, judgment followed them like a persistent cloud. As the plane lifted into the sky, Ryan closed his eyes briefly, letting the hum of engines settle his nerves. But his calm was shattered when the CEO called the flight attendant and began complaining loudly about being forced to sit near chaos, irresponsible fathers, and how children should be better trained. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably, yet no one spoke. And Ryan felt the familiar burn in his chest, a helpless ache mixed with rising anger, the kind that came not from pride but from wanting to protect his child from pain he didn't deserve. Aiden tugged at his sleeve, whispering that he didn't want to cause trouble and promising he'd be quiet. That broke something inside Ryan, who pulled him close, brushing a hand through his hair and reminding him softly that he wasn't the problem. It was the world that was too quick to forget that compassion costs nothing. Half an hour into the flight, the cabin lights flickered slightly, not enough to alarm anyone, but enough to make a few passengers glance around. Ryan noticed the stewardess speaking urgently into the cabin phone, her face tightening. Moments later, the captain's voice cracked through the speakers, breathless, shaken in a way no passenger ever wants to hear. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an urgent situation. One of our pilots has fallen severely ill. We are stabilizing him, but we need assistance. If there is any fighter pilot or highly experienced pilot on board, please make yourself known immediately." A hush swept through the cabin, followed by murmurs that rose like panicked ripples. People turned in their seats. Heads lifted. Even the CEO stopped mid-grumble, blinking in surprise. The attendants moved quickly down the aisles, scanning for any raised hands, but there were none. The captain repeated the call, voice trembling slightly this time. It was more than a technical issue. Fear lived in the tone. The kind that makes the air feel thinner. And that was when something in Ryan shifted, because he knew that voice. He recognized that fear. And he knew exactly what it meant. Ryan had once been Captain Ryan Cole, decorated fighter pilot with 11 years of service. He had flown through storms, through war zones, through moments where seconds meant life or death. He had once soared with confidence, purpose, and skill, until the day tragedy grounded him forever. The day he lost his wife in a sudden accident while he was thousands of miles away in the cockpit, unable to reach her, unable to save her, unable to be the husband he wished he could have been. The guilt had buried him so deeply that he resigned, choosing instead to raise his son with both hands instead of flying with one. But right now, none of that mattered. Not compared to this. Before fear could build in him, Ryan unbuckled his seatbelt, leaned toward the aisle, and raised his hand. His voice, steady despite the storm inside him, carried across the rows. "I can help." Passengers turned. Some gasped. The CEO's eyes widened with a shock that bordered on disbelief. But while others saw a quiet, exhausted single dad, the crew saw something different in Ryan's calm expression, a quiet authority, a presence that felt like safety in the middle of chaos. Within moments, attendants guided him toward the cockpit. As Ryan passed the CEO, he saw the man drop his gaze, embarrassment flickering across his features. For once, the man had no clever insult, no judgment waiting on his tongue. Ryan wasn't seeking validation, but that silence was louder than any apology. Inside the cockpit, the scene was tense. The co-pilot was doing everything alone, sweat lining his forehead as he struggled to stabilize the plane in unexpected winds. The incapacitated pilot lay slumped behind them, pale and unconscious. Alarms blinked. The sky outside was swallowed by clouds, their edges glowing with the threat of a forming storm. Ryan moved into the seat beside the co-pilot with the ease of someone who had practically lived in one. His hands remembered before his